Hey, what's up, folks, and welcome back today for another special interview. Today, we are talking to the star, the lead of the new film, Hell Hath No Fury, which is going to be in theaters November 5th and digital November 9th. I'm very excited to talk to her today. I have with me no other than Nina Bergman. Nina, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. I have so many questions, and we got to start with the character, Marie, and in taking a role like this, this is a role that, first of all, in looking at the film, I did not realize that it was non-fictional, or at least based on true events. I
Mhm.
mean, knowing you were stepping into a character that many people may never have heard of this person, yet there's source material, there's obviously research and prep for it. um, I kind of want to know, first off, how would you describe her? Because I've seen the movie 3 times, and
Mm.
I still don't know how, if I had to describe this person, what's the best way? And there's no other than that's the person who played her. So how would you describe her?
Well, she is very different from me in the sense that her strength is a very quiet inner strength, and her strength is her mind, where mine is more physical. And
Mm,
those characters, the quiet one in the corner that you got to watch out for. And she is a victim, but again, if I was her, I wouldn't have made it as far as she when she's a victim, but when put in these extreme circumstances, I think sometimes you find like this almost superpower that you didn't know that you had, and that's what she was able to tap into. She's
yeah.
probably one of the strongest characters I've ever played, even though she's not using her physical strength.
Okay. Okay. And how did you prep for this role? Now, this question is kind of a two-part question here, because anybody who follows you or anybody that just knows your career knows that you're constantly physically training, and that's also a test to the mental training that you put along with that. But in a role where, or at least for me, in looking at this film, looking at the title, I'm thinking like, oh, if Nina's in it, she's ready to kick some butt.
Mm.
This is not even a question, but that's not actually the approach with this character. So when you were given the this role and realizing that this character had source material, like, how did you kind of sit back and kind of make this character your own? Like, how did you do your research, and how did you fully get into it?
Well, research is key for me. So I try to read, watch everything I could get my hands on from the concentration camp. She went 3 years to Ravensbrück.
Yeah.
So I learned what it was like. Very few people survived. Um, a lot of these women who were those unsung heroes that would go and date Nazi officers and then relay information weren't celebrated, and the stories are not told, because I think once um, if you survive that, you just want to forget and move on with your life. It is so extreme. It is so horrific. It is unlike anything I've ever studied and experienced. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just, on set, I mean, I cried myself every night to sleep, doing all the research. But I thought it was very important uh, to know, even though it's not in the movie, where she came from, as the movie progressed, what it was like for her, because those determined her choices that we see in the movie. I mean, she's relentless to do what she feels is right, and I understand now why, because I've done a lot of research. So for me, research is key, and
Yeah.
then the discipline to, on set. I live there. I live, walking distance from the set. You don't use your cell phones. You don't check your emails the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
I live in a bubble. I eat what she eats. I work out how she would work out. You know,
Mm.
I just, I wake up and I'll play 1930s music, French music. I just try to like just immerse myself as much as I can. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, luckily I had, a set of actors who were willing to do the same. So it felt like doing a play.
Yeah.
Very helpful to me. And we were like in a COVID bubble.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just helped me. Mhm.
You are everything that they said you were. Timothy and Daniel, who I spoke to, gave the highest praise about your
Aw.
performance. And I mean, you look at those, and then that's why I keep looking at the cast, and I just keep thinking, like, how did you all get this movie done? Like, there's so many people with so much experience that I could imagine you all could have just sat back and just talked for hours and hours and hours and got distracted, forgetting you had to film a movie with just so much brain power, so much knowledge in one area. And to hear everyone complimenting each other, just it made me pour my heart out. But I was just like,
It was profound. It was a profound experience because it's very rare, and we all knew it. Like everyone came there with the same intention, and we all had the same goal, and that just never. There's always a lemon. There's always someone who, just phoning it in, or
exactly.
yeah. And everyone gave everything. So it was. I would go back in a heartbeat and do it all over again, even though it's one of the hardest, most miserable things I've ever done. Like, why am I doing this to myself? I love it. I love living in, giving this character life and trying on her life, for 3 months or however long it took.
Daniel also shared same sentiments about how this was probably one of the hardest ones he had to do, but it was so much fun with everybody. But they absolutely gave you the utmost praise on your performance, which I totally agree and you totally deserve. I see you have a head full of hair again.
I know it's growing out. I'm shooting next week. I am praying that they're gonna leave it. First, every time it grows, I book something and then they drop it off.
Yeah. So what was it with this film when you eventually got the role of the script and you realized, like, oh, here we go, I got to cut my hair? Like, what was the decision making here with this one?
Well, I called my manager and I was like, and he was like, well, if you're gonna do it during the pandemic. And for me, it's just hair. At the end of the day, it's just hair. To live in Marie's shoes and to do a movie like this, I mean, cutting my hair off was the least. Like the least of it. And what was a lot harder and more toxic was all the emotional pressure I put on myself to get there. So the hair, I mean, it wasn't, I had them do it with like the original clippers, like how they did it back then, and it whips your hair out and you get these patches, and they would do that to people who were involved with SS officers. They would do it in public, at a square or something, strip them of their clothes, put a Nazi sign on their forehead, and do it as like a humiliation technique. And I mean, she was a hero. She was trying to help. So to sit there in her shoes and experience that was 10 times more gruesome than getting my head shaved. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. A couple of questions about that. So the film is rough runtime is about 1 hour and 30 minutes, which for me, that's an indication that there might have been a lot more film left on the table, but they needed to make a certain mark and whatnot. I am interested. Was there any additional scenes that this character that you shot with this character? Because as you said, we didn't get any type of footage in regards to the concentration camp, which I don't think is totally necessary, because that just takes you down another road of emotion. But I think it is important to really attach the sentimental value with this character, as you say, and which is very true. When you hear what she's been through, she kind of says she says it, and it almost is just like, taboo, almost like, I did that, but like, no, that's not something you can just throw away as if it was nothing. That was probably 3 years, the hardest 3 years of her entire life. But I'm wondering, was there any additional scenes shot either obviously before, or was there anything in the middle, or any other fillers that was what you would say was probably more adequate to put in for the character?
Well, there was with my relationship with von Bruckner, because and I wish that there were more scenes, because he killed her parents.
Yeah,
he has to pretend to fall in love with him, right? To gather information. But does she fall in love with him?
That's my next question. But go ahead.
If this wasn't a war, would they have been soulmates? You know, you'll never know. And you know, there was this scene that Daniel and I wanted to shoot where when you know they picked the parents and sent them to the concentration camp, and von Bruckner saw Marie, and he was like, no, spare her, you know. And there's all these, you know, their relationship I thought was so interesting and so intricate and layered and, you know, effed up, you know.
Yeah.
But and I wish we would have seen more of that. And I was like, Jesse, let's do a prequel of von Bruckner and
Yes.
Marie, of how they met. And you know, because I mean, I can't, you know, this man, you know, killed my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I have to do that. And on top of it, you know, he saves me in the end. You know, I don't want to give too much away. He gets me out of Ravensbrück, and, you know, he's the one that comes back for me. Like he's, you know, like, you know, what Jesse did so beautifully. I think he showed that it wasn't just the Nazis that were terrible. You know, everyone were, you know, the American brings the worst out of people. It brings out, you know, von Bruckner actually had something good in him, but he was just, you know, I do think that he did love her, you know what I mean? But in these circumstances, it's just so layered and complex, and I would have loved to have explored that a lot more. And then more time with Daniel, who I just love.
Yes, I asked Daniel, my very first question is, how the hell did you two build so much chemistry to the point that I cannot believe that I watched the film and I was like, man, I love this Nazi being in love with this French lady. Like, who am I today to actually feel any bit of empathy for what they're going through, considering that, yes, it is war. And if it wasn't because of war, and it wasn't because of circumstances and rankings and position and all that other stuff, that it's a love story. And it's kind of sad. But I'll ask you the same question I asked him. When you knew you were going to work across from Daniel and this, and you knew that what this role was going to entail, how did you feel that you all built that chemistry that really radiates off the screen here?
Okay, I'll just be completely honest. I went to the table read, and they're all sitting there, all the characters, right? And I see Daniel. I'm like, oh, I don't know who's who, right? So I'm like, oh, buff guy, stunt guy, probably can't act, right? Hansen goes, can you sit next to von Bruckner, because he's gonna be playing he's gonna be your von Bruckner. And I was like, And I was like, you know, I needed to take a second to see, like, you know, I'm
get a feeling, yeah, you know, any energy.
Yeah, is there? And I was like, no, there's something there. Then we did the table read, and he was crazy prepared, and he was really good. So I was like, okay. And then he was super sweet and enthusiastic. And then we started doing the scenes and stuff. And then we had like we had the end scene. Is a very dramatic scene, and it needed to be choreographed. And in indie movies, there's not a lot of time to walk. And so I said, hey, Daniel, I'd rather get a couple of more takes. Want to come over to my hotel room and practice the kissing scene and like choreograph?
Oh, he didn't tell me this part.
And I was like, Jesse, can you just please be there so it's not too weird? You know what I mean? And Jesse, I think he showed up like an hour later or something. So it's like, hey, yeah, so we, you know what I mean? Like, but you know, he wanted what I wanted. You know, our objective was the same. We wanted this movie to be the best it could. We wanted these characters. And the beautiful thing is, on these kind of sets, you know, I'm a method actor, so I don't pretend to fall in love. I have to fall in love. And they were all so great. And with him, I was like, no, I can totally fall in love with this guy for however long that we're shooting. You know, I feel sorry for his wife, but I'm going to take full advantage.
Oh my goodness.
It's like, you know, and then the movie ends and it is what it is, right?
This is exactly why I say I have no clue how you all got this film done.
No, but it thanks to Jesse, you know, because I have had it where I looked at my co-star and I was like, oh shit. Like there is nothing, like it's You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and you have enough experience to read that, so like that, I think that speaks a lot about what you bring to the table, and obviously who's casting across from you. If you're not feeling it, then that's them, you know.
It's a problem, but as actors, we just, I go, well,
Yeah.
his eyebrows and eyes, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know, like or I would go full on method and I would just picture this other person and I'll look at him and pretend he's, you know what I mean? So I had to do that too sometimes, we do whatever we have to do. So it was very helpful with Daniel. I could just look at him and I was like, no, I can see Marie falling for him. So yeah, it's always a little awkward because we don't have the time to really,
I
and
could
yeah.
I could totally do like coffee and tea with you just to hear the different things that you've been on set with folks.
I don't know if you want to hear that. I don't know.
I'm all for it. I
Yeah,
think you
I
have
have one advice for you. Don't date an actor.
it's never been on my things to do list, but I'm always interested in hearing you all's stories on set. Like I think that it's got to be some very funny yet bizarre, all sorts of different things that can happen. So
Yeah.
I do want to note that the scene in the beginning of this film with you and Daniel shot in the car is fantastic. It is absolutely beautiful, and I think that really set the tone with you two going forward. And again, the chemistry really jumped off the screen because the biggest question here is that, and this could either be your truth or it could be Marie's truth, but was she ever in love with Ron Buckner? Was she ever?
Do you want me to answer?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, I think it's an open-ended question. It doesn't give the movie away because fans are gonna. Yeah.
It didn't say in the script.
Exactly.
But I chose to. She was madly in love with him. This was her soulmate. He was, they were perfect for each other. But, he killed her parents. And, back then, in Ravensbrück, if you get a cross on the back of your clothes, that means when they go to gas you in the chamber, before they take you to the chamber to gas you, they have to pull out the teeth to get their gold. So basically, the gold that Von Bruckner had for us was my parents. My parents' teeth, their wedding rings. So, and that's the gold that he stole. So me and him could have a beautiful life. I mean, it's so, you know what I mean? She was so trapped.
Yeah.
She was just so trapped. I really felt her because there she found her soulmate and they click and he comes back to get her. You know what I mean? I truly believe it was true love, and he really wasn't. I mean, this is gonna sound terrible, but I don't think Von Bruckner was a terrible person. I just think he was a product of his circumstances. Like that's how no one is born a racist. No one is born like that. This is something we're taught.
Yeah.
And Von Bruckner's soul was good, but he was taught all of this, and he was just in a really bad situation.
This is why I agree with what you said earlier. A prequel would be amazing because like it's a very and it's a film that folks have to watch, but like I firmly agree with you, but you can't go off the limb with a headline saying Nazi isn't a bad person, but like when you're looking at, I firmly agree that a victim of war here.
Yeah.
And that there's people a victim of war in all different categories here. And I think that at the very core of the story, it's just a love story in very, very bad circumstances. So
I mean, this is what I was hoping people would get, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
To me, it's not about the gold. It's this love story. And, it shows how, none of them were bad. None of them were. They were just victims of war. And and all they had left was greed and gold.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, that's what I was hoping that it would translate. It would translate, to and I think it's a perfect time right now because if we're not careful, we will continue down that path,
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So two more other questions I want to ask you. Now, this is my only knock on the film, and this is just a personal knock here.
Oh yeah, go for it.
As a fan of yours, again, as I said, every time I'm looking for you in a role, and it's not to say that I want to typecast you, but like I constantly watch the training. I constantly seeing that you're always evolving and always working out physical and being physical and just growing in your career. Period. I couldn't believe that in this film we didn't get one bit of hand-to-hand combat with you, and I just was ready to see you throw the hands because, again, it's for something what you've been training your ass off for. I just really was expecting, and then I was thinking at the same time, like, all right, well, we didn't get one from you. We didn't get one from Daniel. Then we did get the scene with Timothy, which I was happy about. But I thought it might have been across from you, but might have been across from Daniel. I mean, folks that have the most extensive stunt backgrounds. And it's not a knock on the film, but it's just my personal knock that I like. I wish. So was it for you at all unsatisfying that you couldn't put your skills on display? Because I know you want to every time. I see it in your eyes in roles. I see it.
Well, for me, it was actually refreshing. I was like, yay! I don't have to. I get to act. You know what I mean? I don't get to punch, and it would have been so appropriate because, as again, Marie is a victim in her little slip, and they put them to work in the concentration camp, so they were strong, but they were malnourished, and but I did do my stunts. What you didn't notice is I got punched, I got pushed,
That's true.
Shot, I got I'll share a story like on the grave without giving it away. There's a scene with me and Daniel, and I'm sitting on the grave, and he takes me and he grabs me.
Yeah.
And after like 30 takes of that, my butt was like bleeding.
I didn't even think of that.
On concrete, and he come over, and then he grabbed me, and I was like, because I'm like sliding on the concrete, wearing like this little slip, and like. Like I was like bleeding on my butt cheeks because of being like ripped. You know what I mean? Like you don't understand. Like I was doing more stunts acting than ever, but I wasn't giving it
on the receiving end. Yeah.
On the receiving end, I got tackled. My back went out. She constantly gets pushed and shoved and tackled, and so the stunt did pay off because I knew how to fall. I knew how to.
That's right.
But my Marie's revenge was not the physical. It was,
the mental. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So one other thing, I forgot about this because I definitely need to get this personal question in. Was this from what you said earlier? Because the information about Marie at the end of the film talks about her life after this. She then got married. She has kids, had kids, excuse me. But she never talked about war as if she left this part of her life behind. Yeah. Is this part of what you said earlier in regards to the mental strain and abuse that she went through in the concentration camps? And understanding that she went through that, which is why she ultimately just suppressed that side of her. And then now she went, and because of the war circumstances, this is ultimately the result of how she, like her coping mechanism through all of this. Is this what she did? This is why she didn't speak of it, because this was just the way to metabolize everything, to just be silent about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, speaking from experience, like, molestation and rape victims, like they sometimes forget, and then when they get stronger in their lives, they remember, because the body will shut down traumatic experiences because it's too much. Right? And it's kind of the same thing. Like, it was so horrific what these people went through. It's not just her, it's very common in people that were in the concentration camps. They can't, you can go to all the therapy you want, it is, years of just I mean, I don't want to say it, I don't want to explain what was happening, but like some of the craziest, cruelest. I mean, I'm like, how do people even think this up? Like, how do people even think this up of torturing people this way? Like the sickest
Yeah.
thing I've ever read. And I think you just can't. The only way you can cope with it is like you just have to bury it and move on. Like,
Yeah.
you can't work through it. You know, you're going to spend a lifetime, and I think you just scratch the surface. I worked through a lot of my stuff, but it was nothing compared
Yeah.
to what these people
Yeah.
through. So I think that's what happened with her, and she didn't want to spend her life trying to heal what happened because she can't. She just wanted to spend her life with her kids, and
Yeah.
this is her second chance, and she doesn't want to. She couldn't. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Um, I get it. I understand it where she's coming from. So
I
that's
appreciate.
hard when you do research because they don't talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I appreciate the answer so much. So I want to give you an opportunity here to shed some light on your background, your experience in Hollywood, working on numerous sets, a very extensive background in acting, especially within stunts. We had a tragedy recently in Hollywood, and it's been something I've been asking recently to other actors. Is that you know it's a tragedy whether you knew her or you didn't know her. Everyone is affected, and I feel like in all situations with tragedy, it's always should be a time to kind of sit back, reflect, and think forward in regards to learnings and teaching. So what would you be able to share with the audience here from your time on set about safety on set?
Um, well, I have always been very weary about it because I did a movie with a gentleman called Art Camacho, and he was on the movie set with The Crow on that set. So he was always like paranoid and, rightfully so. So it's been like ingrained in me early on in my career. And on Jesse Johnson's set, I was surrounded by, you have Daniel Bernhardt, who does, stunt master. You have Luke, who was the stunt coordinator. You have Jesse, who owns the guns and know how they work. And so I was very protective. But what I've done on my own is, I have gone to the shooting ranges. I do whenever I have free time, and I learn. Again, I believe education is key. You need to educate yourself, and I think what I did was I took it upon myself to
Mm,
educate myself about guns, and I hate guns. I'm
yeah.
so against them. I would never own one, and I hate them. But
Yeah.
I am very good at shooting. I always have a gun in my hand in every job I do, and it's just a natural. It just comes naturally to me. But I took it upon myself to educate myself, and I just wanted to learn everything there was to learn about guns
Yes.
because of that exact thing. They scare me. You
Yeah.
know, and I think, if you're an actor, like two reasons. Number one, learn about guns because I can tell right away if you hold a gun and you've never held a gun before and you're
Mm,
an idiot. And then the most important reason, like educate yourself so you know how to check a gun before you get it in your hand. And in everyone's defense, I mean, I don't check the gun. No, that's not true. Jesse always shows it to everyone. Jesse Johnson always shows it to everyone. I mean, most movie sets I've been on, they always show it to you, it's hot. They would like communicate, and it's like a
yeah.
time thing. And it's always been extremely thorough, which brings me into there's a reason why we hire union people, because to become union is so difficult that you are forced to have experience most of the time. And when people start to cut corners and stuff, I
Things
mean,
happen.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
just saying, it's
These are important. These are important facts here you're dropping. And again, thank you for that. So
yeah.
look, I'm not going to hold you up too much longer, but I do need to know if you can or willing to share any light on your plethora of upcoming projects that you got going on here.
Well, I'm shooting a new video game next week that I'm very excited about, a new character. Um,
Mm,
And then I have another movie called Seize the Night that's coming out. We don't have a release date yet, but it's coming soon. It just got picked up, where I play a goth singer from the 90s based on a
Okay.
true story. I wrote all the music. It's like Requiem for a Dream meets Before Sunrise.
Okay.
So it's very, so I'm very excited about that one. She's very cool. A true story again. And it's kind of like the Crow kind of vibe.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm really liking that one. So that's one to look out for. And then you must go and see this one, not because I'm starring in it, but I think it's a profound piece of art.
Yes.
Jesse Johnson is Jesse Johnson's best work, and I think it's basically all the actors in its best work. I mean, so. Yeah.
You all definitely knocked this one out. But yeah, as she said, folks, you have to go check out Hell Have No Fear. You have two options: see it in theaters November 5th, which I think this is definitely a very theatrical, a good theatrical release. But if you are not still comfortable with getting out there, then hey, a couple of days after that, November 9th, you can catch it digitally, where you can look at Nina kill it in this. It is, and this was a very special interview because while this character on screen could tell a story, I think there's a lot of research that people should or a mindset from research people should take going into this film, to kind of be open about it, because you may go in here and think like, oh, she's just a double agent trying to squirm out of things, but like, this is truly survival. It is, and there is love involved, and love, as we know, can make you do all sorts of different things, and that could even mean a Nazi doing lovely things. You know, you just never know. But it's a good film, and great performances, and Nina kills it. And I appreciate you stopping by to talk today about it.
Yeah,
and I got to leave the seat open for you for when your other projects come out. We got to do this again.
Please do. Yeah, I'll come back. I'll come back.
Awesome. That would mean a lot. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in for this interview. Jump in the comments. Let us know your thoughts about the film. Check out the other interviews from the other members of the cast and my review for this. But more importantly, make sure you go out and support this film. It's a very critical time for Hollywood and the filmmaking industry, and it's our job to make sure we go out there and support these folks. So you do that, and then come back in and say, "Done it," and I'll be very happy. But I'll see you around very soon for more interviews, folks, and see you then.